Nasa recalls his first meeting with his wife. Middle school Nasa discusses his desired high school with his teacher, who cautions him of the high rate of rejected admissions there. Jokingly, he claims he'll get accepted as the man who will attain the speed of light faster than Nasa, but his teacher insists he discusses his plans with his parents. On his way home, Nasa sees an adorable girl across the road. Captivated, he crosses to approach her but gets hit by a truck. Then the girl comforts him that he won't die. As he lies on the snowy ground, he overhears the driver worrying, especially since the girl blocked the truck for him. She then walks away under the moonlight, reminding Nasa of Princess Kaguya as his consciousness begins fading. With little to no chance of meeting her again, he grabs this chance despite his injuries. Nasa stands up and runs after the girl, leaving the driver confused. He finds her at a bus stop and expresses his gratitude. She lectures him to treasure his life, but Nasa is flustered by her closeness and sweet smell, more so when she takes off her coat to cover him. She steps out to call for help, and Nasa follows but collapses due to his broken legs. But moments later, he's also standing out in the snow where he confesses that he thought she was Princess Kaguya and also admits his feelings. He asks her out and she agrees, but with the condition of marriage. After answering yes, Nasa lost consciousness. When Nasa wakes up, it is already spring, and he has missed the high school entrance exam. While recovering, he still studies diligently. He takes the exam the following year and passes, but declines to enroll to work part-time in convenience stores, thinking he can coincidentally meet her again. In his apartment rented by his parents, he reviews his bank account, lamenting that he has money but not what he truly wishes for. Just then, someone knocks on the door, and it's the mysterious girl. She introduces herself as Tsukasa and says she has important things to discuss. He welcomes her in and panics. He even spills the coffee as he adores her. Settling down the table, Tsukasa takes out a marriage certificate form, surprising him. She's about to retract it when he grabs it and embarrassingly confesses loudly. Though with doubt, Nasa fills out the form. Tsukasa speaks her new name with his surname, making him blush. That very same day, they plan to submit it to the marriage office. On her way, Tsukasa practices her new name while Nasa realizes she never made fun of his name and even compliments it for being the same as the organization that made it possible to go over the moon. Soon their marriage gets processed and the staff gives a plant as a gift. Outside the office, Tsukasa offers to hold hands and he excitedly grips her too hard. And they go home and he just realizes that they'll be living together after she asks the number of his bedding. In his apartment, while Nasa waits for Tsukasa, he tries to grasp the reality of their marriage. The thought of possibly sharing a bed soon hits him, and he starts to panic. He realizes that his bed is too small and tries calculating for ways. He imagines the pillow as Tsukasa, fixing their positions, and Tsukasa catches him hugging it, but she does not agree with the idea. She brings her luggage in and he learns she has no home anymore, confirming they will now live together. Nasa then ponders why she married him as he can't think of any reason. He questions Tsukasa and she reassures she won't marry someone she dislikes. When Nasa asks when she likes him, she answers the secret and leaves the apartment. Nasa follows Tsukasa and gets anxious watching her back. He suggests buying a futon so she could stay in his apartment. Tsukasa then demands a memory foam, the luxurious ones. When they arrive at the store, Tsukasa is surprised by Nasa's knowledge about futons and keeps asking him questions. Nasa proudly boasts about his memory. He later assumes this might be their first date and nervously tries holding her hand. She doesn't pull away and they continue strolling through the shop. At this moment, he thinks the store's name, which includes Heaven, is fitting. Back home, they set up her newly bought bedding on the floor and Tsukasa lies down on it. This makes Nasa realize even more that he's really going to sleep in the same room with a girl. Despite his earlier claim that the store was heaven, now his room feels like heaven, even more so when Tsukasa invites him to try lying down as well. He declines and suggests they should go to sleep already. Tsukasa points out the lack of a bathroom and daily necessities for guests. Still panicking, Nasa volunteers to go shopping alone, not until Tsukasa adds her underwear to the list of items. After shopping, Tsukasa changes into her pajamas while Nasa contemplates how marriage has changed his situation. When it's Nasa's turn to change, Tsukasa suggests he do it right there, but he quickly declines, feeling shy. He tries imagining her flustered but can't picture it out. When he comes out, Tsukasa has her hair tied in 2 buns, which he still finds cute. She explains it's more comfortable for sleeping. Before sleeping, Tsukasa thanks him and they sleep. However, it's only Tsukasa who can, and Nasa is still wide awake. He watches her sleeping until she rolls off the futon. Nasa debates whether to move her back and decides he should also give her a goodnight kiss. However, he stops himself, feeling it's not right since she's unaware. Tsukasa then wakes up briefly to get water, causing Nasa to rush back to his bed, wondering if she noticed his attempted kiss. When she comes back, she stands behind him for a while before falling on his body. As she slides down to her own futon, she also grabs Nasa's quilt, leaving him cold. The next morning, Tsukasa wakes up confused about her hair and the extra quilt. Still groggy, she starts unbuttoning her pajamas, but Nasa stops her. Afterward, they decide what to call each other, and Nasa's choice of Tsukasa-chan flusters her. Morning, Nasa admires Tsukasa in an apron as she prepares breakfast. Tsukasa is impressed by Nasa's organized fridge, but disappointed with his daily hot pot routine based on nutritional needs, calling it science rather than cooking. She then showcases her culinary skills, amazing Nasa. Despite cooking with the same ingredients, Nasa thinks that her cooking is way better. After breakfast, they plan to go to the nearby bathhouse and shops for essentials like lotion beforehand. Learning about lotions, Nasa assumes it's the reason for Tsukasa's sweet smell. At the bathhouse, they meet Kanemi, Nasa's junior from middle school, who teases him for bringing the girl as he doesn't seem interested before. She asks if Tsukasa is his girlfriend, so Nasa introduces Tsukasa as his wife, surprising Kanemi. She congratulates them and offers Tsukasa a free bath. When Nasa tries to enter, Kanemi stops him, demanding an explanation as he dreams of consoling him after he turns into a wizard at 30 years old. Kanemi asks Nasa if he has told her sister Aya about the marriage, but he hasn't. She requests to keep it a secret from her and asks about the ceremony, but Nasa hasn't planned one as he thinks it's actually unnecessary. Hearing this, Kanemi reminds him of his duty to make Tsukasa happy, so Nasa declares to do it because he loves her. Just then, Tsukasa walks out and overhears him. She takes her things and tells him those public declarations embarrass her. They also make her very happy. Inside the bathhouse, Nasa is preoccupied with the possibility of seeing his wife in her birthday suit like in a typical bathhouse episode. However, Kanemi appears claiming she's there to clean after seeing him naked. She teases him and stays for an uncomfortably long time. Meanwhile, Tsukasa, thinking she's alone, prepares to bathe. When she soaks herself in the water, Aya reveals herself hidden from the bath's mist. Aya apologizes for seeing her stripping. Tsukasa forgives her, but she begins narrating her embarrassing moments. To make amends, Tsukasa accepts Aya's offer to wash her back. Aya compliments Tsukasa's skin, comparing it to silk, but retracts it after realizing it's from silkworms. Then she thinks of other things and out of nowhere claims it's like an iPhone, to which she apologizes again for comparing her to a gadget. They introduce themselves, and upon hearing Tsukasa's surname, Kanemi assumes she's Nasa's sister. After bathing, Tsukasa wakes Nasa, who had fallen asleep waiting for her. Due to a misunderstanding, Aya doesn't realize they are married and thinks they're just family. He introduces her as a former classmate, while Aya narrates dramatically that Nasa is their business savior after being bankrupt. Leaving the bathhouse, Tsukasa comments on how cute Aya is, and Nasa agrees. Noticing Tsukasa's change in mood, he sees a wedding ceremony and misunderstands her feelings based on what Kanemi said. Tsukasa initially denies being upset, but then admits she wants to be praised. Nasa thinks she wants praise in a wedding dress and explains he can't do that right now, so he gives her his apartment key and promises to fix things, leaving Tsukasa puzzled about why it's hard to compliment her. Alone in the apartment, Tsukasa waits for Nasa and decides to clean to surprise him. Nasa's room is already spotless, so she plans to cook instead. Just as she starts, the doorbell rings. Expecting Nasa, she finds a blonde girl, Chitose, and shuts the door before Chitose can finish explaining why she's there. Chitose bangs on the door, begging to open and apologizing. Tsukasa finally opens it, and Chitose explains their great-grandmother is worried. Tsukasa infers that Chitose begged to know her location. With Tsukasa's feud with Takiko, Tsukasa tells Chitose to go home and inform them about her marriage, shocking her. While Chitose cries on the stairs below Nasa's apartment, Nasa arrives and offers her a handkerchief. She shares that her sister doesn't want to go home. Though not blood-related, she cares for her sister deeply, likening her to a glass butterfly. Easily hurt, delicate, and will disappear any time. Nasa expresses his wish to help and praises him as nice. She reminds him of his plans, and he shares that he's looking for a place to propose. Just as Chitose suggests a place, Tsukasa appears. Chitose learns Nasa is married to Tsukasa and, burning with rage, disapproves of their marriage. Tsukasa explains to Nasa that she used to live with Chitose. Despite Chitose's fury, Nasa shakes her hand, introduces himself, and invites her to lunch to talk it out. Still, Tsukasa knows Chitose is hard to convince. And with Chitose's snap, she summons a bodyguard who kidnaps Nasa. For some reason, Chitose is confident that Tsukasa will not call the police and just confiscate Nasa's phone. They arrive at a classy building where Chitose reveals her plan to use tabloid journalism to break their marriage. Nasa imagines being in a scandal when Chitose calls for her maids, Charlotte and Aurora. When Charlotte immediately strips off her clothes, Aurora and Chitose cover her. Chitose clarifies she just wants to capture a useless Nasa, but while explaining, Nasa slips off from them. While escaping, he accidentally enters a room that smells like Tsukasa. Inside the room, Nasa spots a glass case containing a moonstone. While he inspects it, Charlotte bursts in with a large sword and attacks him, But Chidasi and Aurora arrive, scolding Charlotte for being reckless and inadvertently damaging the moonstone case. Nasa quickly fixes the case, preserving the moonstone. Chidasi's reaction confirms the stone's authenticity. She explains that their grandaunt lent it to Tsukasa and then realizes he knows nothing of Tsukasa's past, infuriating her more. Charlotte, meanwhile, thanks Nasa for saving the moonstone with a hug, which Aurora photographs and edits. Tsukasa arrives, takes the edited picture, and sarcastically comments on it, shocking Nasa. Shigoshi demands a divorce, calling him terrible. Tsukasa pretends to agree and asks Nasa to talk outside. When they got far, Tsukasa admits she was just pretending to be mad, and that if she were truly angry, it would be much worse. After going through a secret passage Chidasi doesn't know, they find themselves in an old Meiji-era church. Nasa, seeing Tsukasa so happy, promises they will support each other and that he never wants her to regret marrying him. After confirming it's a proposal, Nasa kisses Tsukasa. Tsukasa looks for television but can't find anything at Nasa's apartment. She learns that her husband is clueless about movies, so she explains what would have happened if he didn't know about it. She passionately discussed its complexity, even the importance of delving into the director's old works, which is contrary to the usual calm and collected Tsukasa that Nasa knows. After that, Nasa is convinced to buy the television and Tsukasa thanks him for it. While they shop, he wonders what to buy and Tsukasa just suggests buying the cheapest as always. At the bathhouse, Nasa brags about his proposal to Kanemi, and she points out that there should be a ring between the married couple. Meanwhile, in the bathtub, Tsukasa remembers their kiss and sinks herself in the water, embarrassed. However, Nasa thinks that Tsukasa will want one, which earns him a nagging from Kanemi that wives are just trying to be nice when they refuse expensive stuff. Finally, Tsukasa finishes her bath, and after a blushing moment between them, they head home. On their way, Nasa informs Tsukasa that he will go to work and will return by 9 p.m. Then Tsukasa sees a park and they stop by. After they sit on the bench, there's a long silence between them and Nasa doesn't know what they should talk about. But after seeing Tsukasa's expression, he concludes that she's sad as he will leave him alone. Thinking she's cute, Nasa leans for a kiss and Tsukasa responds. Unbeknownst to them, Chidasi's maids are watching. They decide not to inform their master to avoid disaster while the couple continue flirting with each other. It's time for Nasa to leave for work. He bids farewell to Tsukasa and gets anxious that she'll disappear again. Tsukasa just asks him to come home early so she can't go away, assuring Nasa. While at work, Nasa recalls their time at the park and then he realizes the importance of rings. He also remembers the days when he was missing Tsukasa but couldn't find her. When he comes home, he finds Tsukasa cooking. As they eat, he opens it with Tsukasa and learns the difference between an engagement ring and a marriage ring. On the other hand, Tsukasa thinks it's just a waste of money, and with Nasa insisting on their symbol of love, she decides to show him its price and invites him to shop by tomorrow. The next day, they go to a high-end jewelry shop and the price shocks Nasa. He's about to impulsively buy one, but Tsukasa drags him out of the store. With Nasa's persistence, they go to a shop that sells a bit lower than the first and the price so shocks him. Heavy-hearted, he shares that he just wants to have something that will remind them of each other so Tsukasa won't be lonely. Learning that it's for her, Tsukasa kisses his cheeks and tells him she loves Nasa, making him flustered. Afterwards, they decide to buy the cheapest rings. While they walk home, Tsukasa mentions that she will definitely remember that day with the ring, including the embarrassing lack of funds, but most especially, Nasa's love for her. Every evening, Tsukasa ends up outside her futon and wakes up to drink water at night. Then she grabs Nasa's quilt when returning. But that night, she climbs into Nasa's bed. Gathering courage, Nasa hugs her, but when his hand touches her chest, she turns around making him panic, but she just kisses him before returning to her futon. The next morning, Nasa has visible eye bags, while Tsukasa seems unaware of the incident. The incident makes Nasa consider moving to a bigger place. He imagines different scenarios and discusses them with Tsukasa, but she's fine with her current place because she feels close to Nasa. Still, with his desire to sleep with Tsukasa, Nasa browses for new places. Kanemi notices and mentions sleeping while holding hands, fanning Nasa's interest in moving. When he shares that Tsukasa's fine with their setup, Kanemi insists no wife is truly happy in a tiny studio. Nasa worries Tsukasa might misunderstand his intentions and plans to discuss carefully. Returning home, he accidentally sees her changing and they both apologize, flustered. Outside, Nasa suggests moving and getting a projector and a shelf for her DVDs to convince her. He also reveals he wants to sleep together while holding hands, and Tsukasa eventually agrees. As they walk home holding hands, she remembers they need a guarantor for the new place, and Nasa realizes he hasn't informed his parents about their marriage. Tsukasa goes inside while Nasa calls his parents, who react incomprehensibly until he mentions marrying the super cute girl who saved him. Tsukasa overhears and asks what he told his parents after the accident. Nasa proudly says he met the cutest girl in the universe, making Tsukasa embarrassed to meet them. The next day, Nasa is hesitant about Tsukasa meeting his parents until he receives a text from his mom saying they won't sign as guarantors unless they meet her. Tsukasa learns Nasa's parents live in Nara. Chitosi's maids inform her and speculate it might be their honeymoon, which Nasa also considers since they'll be traveling. Since they'll be going places, Tsukasa decides to buy a camera to document their life together, which makes Nasa blush. Convinced, Nasa takes pictures of Tsukasa and gets engrossed in it while Tsukasa takes a pic of him that'll make her remember that day. At the bus stop, Nasa and Tsukasa take some pictures before boarding. Inside, they discuss plans for stops, so Nasa suggests sleeping, but Tsukasa is excited to buy food at service areas. As the bus prepares to depart, Tsukasa expresses nervousness and Nasa reassures her. Meanwhile, Chitosi and her maids follow them as she still disagrees with the sudden marriage. Riding, Nasa struggles to sleep on the hard seats, while Tsukasa sleeps deeply. Looking at her, he finds her cute and wishes she would lean on him. Wish granted, the bus shakes and her head rests on his shoulder. They arrive at the 50-minute stop and get off the bus with Nasa shaking his legs. When Tsukasa asks if they should have ridden the Shinkansen, Nasa pretends he's fine to not make her worry. Watching them, Chitosi swears to teach them about Narita divorce. Chitosi explains her plan for breaking them. She will not do anything at all as Narita divorce. The small conveniences they will encounter will do it. Just then, Nasa realizes he forgot his wallet on the bus and runs off to get it, leaving Tsukasa. While Chitosi expects Tsukasa to be mad, they still get along afterward. The next trouble comes in the food area where the couple has different opinions about food. Nasa suggests a familiar food chain, but Tsukasa wants to try something new, specifically lime udon. Nasa concedes and Tsukasa explains the origins of the dish at their table. When their orders arrive, Tsukasa tastes it first and offers to feed Nasa, and they both avoid commenting on the taste. Nasa playfully challenges Tsukasa to try eating a lime since she likes new experiences, and she does, resulting in Nasa capturing her making a sour face in photos. After teasing Tsukasa, she sulks but forgives Nasa after he offers her ice cream and buys her favorite local melon bread. Nasa excuses himself to the bathroom. Meanwhile, Chitosi confronts Tsukasa about acting like a normal girl, and Tsukasa insists she's always been one. And then someone shooting suddenly arrives, so Tsukasa drags Nasa away, who also just arrived. On the other hand, the maids also pull Chitosi to escape from the cameras. While running away, Chitosi shouts, questioning Tsukasa's decision to marry Nasa. Back on their bus, Tsukasa discusses Chitosi's disapproval of their marriage, and Nasa assures her he'll handle it with his parents. Meanwhile, Chitosi vents about the couple escaping again. Nasa falls asleep and gets embarrassed, realizing it after Tsukasa wakes him up. Tsukasa tells him they've arrived. Off the bus, Nasa plans sightseeing but gets surprised when Tsukasa prefers bakeries and cafes. He awkwardly raps about historical sites and she calls them old places. Looking at Nasa's crestfallen look, Tsukasa pretends she's interested. During sightseeing, Tsukasa wears traditional clothes, stunning Nasa. Then a chaotic voice arises. It's from Chitosi, who's against them being lovey-dovey. Nasa suggests discussing it and apologizes to Tsukasa for leaving her alone. The maids offer to stay with her. Chitosi proposes pretending to be Tsukasa's girlfriend to test Nasa, who is confident and claims it's because of love, annoying Chitosi. Nasa suggests a rickshaw ride, distracting Chitosi. Tsukasa, eating with the maids, is questioned about why she likes Nasa. She blushingly admits his cuteness and praises his optimism. On their trip, Nasa also shares why he likes Tsukasa with Chitosi, and she's convinced that he knows nothing more than her. Chitosi brags about knowing Tsukasa's athletic, but instead of getting jealous, Nasa only thinks that Tsukasa is cuter. Chitosi, miffed, walks away and internally concedes Tsukasa truly loves Nasa, but can't still accept it. When she stops, Nasa recounts Tsukasa saving him, feeling it was fate. He relates it to science and declares he'll spend his time proving his love for Tsukasa, and marriage is his step to prove it. Their trip ends. Tsukasa asks if Nasa convinced Chitosi, but he's also unsure. On their way, Tsukasa expresses surprise at learning Nasa is from Nara. Nasa clarifies he's from Tokyo and his parents moved because his father is an archaeologist. Tsukasa worries about getting along with her in-laws, but Nasa reassures her. Upon arrival, Tsukasa quickly recognizes their location based on a mountain. Nasa's mother nervously peeks outside until Nasa notices her. Introductions follow with his overwhelmed parents. They settle at a table and offer their gift. Nasa scolds his parents for their stiffness, but they claim they are mentally unprepared. Tsukasa cuts off and apologizes for the sudden marriage. Suddenly, Nasa's father suggests Nasa take a bath, confusing him. His mother also encourages him to bathe. Eventually, Nasa's father bluntly states he wants to speak with Tsukasa alone, initially leading to Nasa's refusal until Tsukasa convinces him otherwise. After bathing, Nasa asks Tsukasa what they talked about, to which she replies it's about him, but the details are secret. Then they talk about Nasa's room and Tsukasa realizes how little his things are even in their apartment. Nasa's mother informs him about an extra futon and reminds him that they're just next door. Initially confused, Nasa later realizes its meaning. Later, as they prepare for bed, Nasa can't shake off his thoughts about sharing a bed with Tsukasa. Unable to sleep, he suggests Tsukasa to rest on his arm, which she agreed to. As time passed, Nasa's arm went numb and Tsukasa teased him for it. Just as Tsukasa is about to go back to her futon, Nasa boldly requests a goodnight kiss, to which Tsukasa agrees. In the next room, Nasa's father overhears him. The next morning, Tsukasa is embarrassed to change in Nasa's room, but finds relief as he's asleep. Nasa, actually awake, peeps a bit. Outside, Nasa's father warmly greets Tsukasa, taken aback when she calls him father. Concerned about what to talk about, Nasa's father invites Tsukasa to his office. Tsukasa mentions that Nasa's intelligence must be from him, but he denies it as he's no match for his son. Then Tsukasa laughs while reading a letter in his office that ordinary people will understand. Nasa soon joins them, surprised to see Tsukasa in the study, given her supposed dislike for history, which she denies. Later on, Tsukasa comes up with a plan to enjoy historical places. Nasa thinks she's just obliging, but Tsukasa's reaction is the opposite. Instead, she regrets not being able to spend time with Nasa because of Chitosi's interference. They explore and take funny photos, with Tsukasa teasing Nasa for suggesting a photo together, but still clinging to him to take a picture. At Hijukyo's ruins, Tsukasa talks about its past, which Nasa finds odd for someone who's uninterested in history. She brushes this aside and decides to film a funny video instead. However, she stops it as it seems like a death flag. Nasa suggests deleting it, but Tsukasa wants to keep it to show his parents. When Nasa wonders when they grew close, Tsukasa keeps it a secret. Throwback to when they ask Nasa to take a bath, his parents just thank Tsukasa for saving Nasa years ago. Finally, they bid farewell to Nasa's parents and head back to Tokyo, where they find their apartment completely burnt down. Despite his burnt-down apartment, Nasa prioritizes the safety of others and is relieved to find their wedding plant miraculously survived. Luckily, his important items are safe in a deposit box. Impressed by Nasa's reliability, Tsukasa silently admires him and surprises him by saying, "I love you." They decide to visit the bathhouse to plan their next steps. While bathing, Nasa considers staying in a hotel, but is interrupted by Kanemi, who comments on his unusual excitement despite losing his home. Kanemi then offers them a stay in the bathhouse's detached place as thanks for saving their business. She assures Nasa that her family agrees and leaves them there. While Nasa attributes their good fortune to luck, Tsukasa believes it's because he's well-liked. Kanemi later confirms her family's approval. Afterward, Kanemi wonders how her airhead sister Aya will react to Nasa's marriage and asks Aya about living with her crush. When Nasa enters and thanks Aya for letting them stay, she remains oblivious to their relationship despite Nasa's hints and wedding rings. Aya's mother arrives and reveals the marriage, shocking Aya. Her mother casually mentions Aya's crush on Nasa and she panics. Aya recalls when Nasa solved a difficult math problem when they were kids, and that's when she starts crushing on him. But her mother interrupts her reminiscing, noting Aya's first heartbreak, leading to banter about their failed loves, while Kanemi apologizes for her family. Nasa apologizes for being unaware of Aya's feelings, but Kanemi says it's Aya's fault for not confessing. To move on, Aya congratulates Nasa on his wedding and declares to debut as a game streamer. Several days later, Nasa and Tsukasa's laundry piles up. Nasa volunteers to do it, but Tsukasa is embarrassed about him seeing her underwear. Nasa suggests washing their own clothes, but Tsukasa refuses, offering to wash his too. While preparing to do the laundry, Kanemi calls Tsukasa to help her mom, leaving Nasa alone. Tempted, he sniffs Tsukasa's clothes and gets caught by Kanemi. At the laundromat, they load the machine. While waiting, Nasa notices Tsukasa wearing a tracksuit unlike usual. However, what surprises him more is that she doesn't have any underwear underneath because most of her clothes were lost in the fire and the rest are being washed. Excited, Nasa takes a photo of his embarrassed wife. Back at the bathhouse, Kanemi suggests shopping for Tsukasa's clothes since they lost theirs in the fire. Nasa thinks it's unnecessary as they recently washed their clothes, but Kanemi insists that maintaining a cute wife takes effort. They shop at Harajuku, where Tsukasa tries on clothes. While Nasa finds her cute, he thinks they're too revealing, so Tsukasa lets him choose for her. She then teases him for his girly choices. Later, they visit the undergarments section, where Nasa feels uncomfortable and worries about looking suspicious. Tsukasa advises him to act like he's being dragged by his wife to avoid suspicion. After shopping, Tsukasa thanks Nasa for the clothes and teases him about not getting arrested. Nasa then asks an intimate question, leaving them both embarrassed. The building they're using is where Kanemi's dad used to do his nerd stuff. Inspecting it, Nasa thinks it's old-fashioned. He offers to help Tsukasa with cooking, but she wants him to just enjoy the food. Tsukasa serves homemade tonkatsu and sauce, surprising Nasa. He wonders about the rice without a rice cooker and learns Tsukasa cooked it in a pot. After eating, Tsukasa cleans up, and then Kanami arrives with a muskmelon from a customer. Kanami quickly leaves, teasing the couple and making them flustered. They cut up the melon to enjoy it. Nasa wants to feed Tsukasa, but she's embarrassed. He mentions when she fed him at his service area and his desire to do more embarrassing things. Eventually, Tsukasa agrees. The next morning, Nasa's former landlord calls, offering them a new apartment at the same price as before. The new apartment is on the site of their previous one, and the landlord offers to let them move in without a security deposit or initial fee. They visit the model apartment and are surprised to find a huge luxury skyscraper. Tsukasa speculates the landlord might be an oil baron. Inside, the apartment is beautiful, with an impressive view and a bathtub that offers an outside view. Tsukasa prefers a normal bathtub, while Nasa imagines them bathing together. In the bedroom with a large double bed, Nasa nervously asks if they should sleep in one bed, and Tsukasa shyly agrees. After their tour, the landlord texts to inform them that there was a mistake and the apartment they viewed was not the intended model. Going home, Nasa promises to work hard to afford such a luxurious apartment, but Tsukasa expresses satisfaction wherever they stay. Kanami wakes up daily at 5:30 am to prepare the bathhouse, balancing it with high school. Despite the challenge, her diligence keeps her on track. Tsukasa offers to help, but Kanami initially refuses as she's still a stranger to her, aside from being Nasa's wife. Tsukasa rephrases her request, claiming it as payback for letting her stay, which makes Kanami agree. Before cleaning, they decide to call each other Tsukasa-san and Kanami. Tsukasa learns the bathhouse systems were innovated by Nasa. Kanami initially wants to test her like a mother-in-law, but is amazed when Tsukasa cleans the men's bathroom sparkling. She starts realizing why Nasa married her. While discussing Nasa's work, Kanami thanks Tsukasa for saving Nasa, but Tsukasa also considers herself lucky to have saved him. Tsukasa then sends Kanami off to school. Witnessing this, Nasa wonders when they become friends. That night, Tsukasa asks Nasa what he'd like for the next day. After some complicated explanation, he chooses curry, but they need to buy curry powder, so they plan a night stroll. Kanami's mother suggests a quiet park route, teasing Nasa. When Tsukasa asks, Nasa says it's about trade to avoid suspicion. After shopping, they pass through Otoji Park as Nasa planned. Tsukasa questions this and he admits wanting to kiss her. Tsukasa refuses due to having eaten a meat bun with a lot of garlic, so she's insecure about kissing. Instead of a kiss, Nasa decides to hug her gently but ends up grabbing her abruptly, scaring Tsukasa. He then asks about their marriage and she admits to experiencing new feelings and things. Chitose is surprised to see Nasa's burned-down apartment and wonders where they are staying. Tsukasa appears on her way to the grocery store. And when Chitose asks about the house, Tsukasa evades by saying she's buying detergent. Without their apartment, Chitose wonders where Tsukasa is staying and Tsukasa tricks her by saying she stays in the playground. Chitose realizes the trick only after Tsukasa escapes. Tsukasa returns to Nasa and finds him wondering about a takoyaki plate. She explains it, prompting him to plan a takoyaki party. They invite Kanami, and then Chitose appears in the bathhouse. Tsukasa tricks her again by saying she stays in the bathhouse, laying down a cloth on the floor and using milk bottles as her pillow. The maids also enter the bathhouse, and Kanami suggests a relaxing bath to calm everyone. After a refreshing bath, Chitose leaves but returns angry, realizing she's been tricked. She admits she enjoyed the bath but insists Tsukasa deserves better. Kanami gets upset, but Chitose calms her, still wanting Tsukasa to stay at her place. Tsukasa prefers their current place because of the Mega Drive. Chitose offers to buy more, but Tsukasa declines, though she seems interested. Then Aya, a game addict, wants to go instead. Kanami pulls her away and invites everyone to the takoyaki party, where Nasa says it's a chance to bond. With more people, Tsukasa mentions the lack of food. Just then, the maids appear with groceries. Aya doubts Tsukasa's cooking skills, saying modern girls don't cook. Nasa defends his wife's cooking, but they remain skeptical. Chitose supports Nasa despite never having tasted Tsukasa's cooking. Tsukasa gets carried away and prepares a lot of food. Aya questions if she made it all, and Tsukasa modestly credits the maids who claim they only prepared the plates. Aya insists food must taste good as well as look good. She's surprised to find Tsukasa's cooking delicious but still doesn't acknowledge her as a good wife. Afterward, Aya suggests playing games. Nasa, who has only played solitaire, tries gaming and is quickly beaten by Tsukasa. Kanami, confident she can win against Nasa, is also defeated by Tsukasa despite having played with her sister before. Aya's turn comes and the maids propose a prize. The winner gets to order Nasa around. Chitose, Aya, and Tsukasa join the bet, while Kanami backs out knowing Aya is competing and she has already lost to Tsukasa. Shitoshi, wanting to embarrass Nasa, confidently faces Aya in a game but loses repeatedly, making excuses about her controller. Next, Tsukasa faces Aya and loses her familiar character, excusing herself by saying her skills are rusty. She requests a change to Street Fighter. Initially, Aya loses but adapts, ending in a draw. Exhausted, a fist bump, forming a friendship. Finally, it's takoyaki time. Tsukasa makes takoyaki well, while Nasa struggles, so Tsukasa guides him. Shitoshi observes but lets them be as long as Tsukasa is happy. The maids commend Shitoshi and pat her head. The party ends and everyone goes home. Back at the annex, Mesa asks Tsukasa what she would have ordered if she had won the game. Tsukasa kisses him, saying that's what she would have done, making him blush. Nasa gives her permission to kiss him anytime she wants. The next day, Nasa's work calls him about a system issue, so they need his help. Tsukasa, his ever-watchful wife, notices he doesn't take breaks and nudges him to reconsider his work-life balance. After hours of focusing on work, Tsukasa notices that Nasa is unwell and takes his temperature, finding he has a cold. As soon as Nasa becomes aware of his sickness, he feels dizzy. Concerned, she tends to him, urging him to rest. When Nasa wakes up, it's already night. Though feeling better, Tsukasa insists on taking care of him and talks about wiping his sweat. She orders him to strip, shocking him. While Tsukasa wipes his back, Nasa feels hot in another sense. She volunteers to wipe him all over, which he firmly refuses, embarrassed. Afterward, his cute newly wife feeds him fruit as aftercare. After confirming his recovery, Tsukasa is relieved and learns from Nasa that he rarely gets sick. However, Tsukasa believes otherwise and claims he just doesn't realize it. She recalls their first meeting where he stood up to catch up with her despite being badly injured and reminded Nasa to take care of his own life. As it's already dark, they go to bed. While Nasa reflects on what Tsukasa said, Tsukasa holds his hand, which he assumes is just his imagination. When he turns his back, Tsukasa hugs him from behind. She admits she's worried about him and Nasa apologizes, promising to take better care of his health. He explains that he focused too much on finishing work because he wanted to enjoy this summer festival with her. They kiss and Nasa continues to kiss her neck, but Tsukasa stops him, reminding him to slow down as he's still recovering. The next day, Kanemi suggests they wear yukata, and Tsukasa is interested after hearing it will help her husband's recovery. Tsukasa brings the yukata to their room, noting that Kanemi adjusted it to Nasa's size. Before changing clothes, Tsukasa asks Nasa to turn his back. While Nasa deliberates whether to look or not, he asks if he can watch her change, and she agrees, blushing. Despite only giving permission to peek, Tsukasa points out how Nasa stares at her. She asks him to hurry, but Nasa stands up and compliments her in the yukata. He kisses her, but she pushes him away, reminding him they'll miss the fireworks. At the lively festival with numerous stalls, Tsukasa wants to visit the takoyaki stall, preferring the non-fried ones despite their recent party. Wondering if Nasa would like her to feed him, she hesitates as he's shy. They then see Aya, Shitoshi, and her maids at the goldfish stall. Challenged to try it, Tsukasa excels, so they switch to Nasa. He almost catches one, but the net breaks. Tsukasa cheers him up, saying everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, and he's cool in front of his computer. Spotting a shrine, they both pray for their happy marriage and best wishes for each other. Hearing Nasa's prayer, Tsukasa vows to always care for his well-being. Touched, Nasa hugs her. As he's about to kiss Tsukasa, their friends interrupt, announcing the start of the fireworks. The couple watches the fireworks holding hands.